morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. This is another exciting episode of The Adventures. My name is Kunle Olufemi, your host. As you know, on Adventures, we seek to bring you the inspiring stories of courage and vision behind the organizations and the brand that you see around you every day. By bringing you their stories, we hope to inspire you. We hope to share some of their mistakes, some of their successes with you so that you are able to achieve a degree of success faster than they did in their own journey, thereby making society a better place. As you know, try to bring exciting guests, right, that will share freely from their heart. And today is not an exception, as I have in the studio with me a friend of many decades that will be, sharing our story with us today. And the story is really exciting because I can't really wait to hear how how she has managed the many transitions in her life, right? I'm speaking about about my friend, Mrs. Lalu Adewale, or if we want to call her simply, we call her Bimini as we used to know her. Bimini is a gerontologist, a seasoned entrepreneur, a multidisciplined business leader, and founder of Full Circle Geriatric Care Services, a foremost elderly care and wellness outfit in Nigeria. Her professional career, which spans over 2 decades, began in Deloitte, where she trained as an internal auditor and risk management consultant. She had a stint in investment banking and spent the longest stretch of her career in the fast moving consumer goods sector, where she served in various leadership positions in Procter Gamble and Diageo, that is Guinness Nigeria PLC. After a well spent career in corporate Nigeria, she transitioned into healthcare to fulfill a long term passion and contribute to closing the gaps in the Nigerian geriatric care ecosystem. Our well rounded experience in the corporate world, coupled with a unique blend of business acumen, passion, and assertive personality, and I've been a witness of that. Assertive personality makes her an exceptional leader in a chosen field. Bemini is a wife, mother, is a devoted wife, mother, a naturalist, and an adventurer who enjoys traveling, exploring new cultures, and reading and writing. So it's our pleasure today to have an adventurer on adventures.
How
Please,
nice.
so welcome with me, Bimini, on adventures. You're very welcome, Bimini. So great to have you here. Like I said to you when we were preparing for this, it's really a pleasure to have you on the podcast. It's been a while, right? So we've not spoken in a long time until recently. So really great to have you on the show. Now, I like to start the conversation by giving you a chance to just tell our viewers, right, a few about what you do, just a little about what you do. As I used to say jokingly, right, your customer may be on my timeline. So take this as your unpaid advert, right? So tell us a little bit about what you do. Possibly, if you can, if it is safe to share, right, a little bit of the scale of your operations and all of that, and then we'll basically just take it from there if that's all right with you. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to listeners, viewers all around the world, and of course to our potential customers. My name is Bemini Laolo Adewale, as Kuli rightly introduced me. I'm a gerontologist and the founder of Full Circle Geriatric Care Services here in Nigeria. So, my journey into becoming a gerontologist, I was young, even before I was conscious that there was any such thing called gerontology. So, as a child, I'm a first child, the first of three daughters, and naturally poses a lot of responsibility on me as a first daughter, first child. So I remember my grandmom, who passed at the age of 90. Once upon a time, she was not feeling well. And my dad thought the best thing to do at the time was to bring her over to the house, and I had to nurse her. I was a teenager then, I remember. Although I did it somewhat grudgingly, but I did it and I did it well. Like I had to clean her up, cater to her meals. Of course, my mom would prepare, serve her, made sure she ate, had the right amount of water, medications, and just make sure she slept, checked how long she was sleeping. I did those things like I wasn't even conscious of what I was doing. Fast forward to university. I went to University of Obafemi Awolowo University, and I recall that I would leave Ife to go to Ijebu to cater to my grandpa, my maternal grandpa now. He had a stroke, and I loved my grandpa. So I would just leave school and go to Oru and just be with my grandpa, massage his leg, you know. And I know they will tell my mom that, oh my, she's come to Oru all the way from Ife, unannounced. I will not tell anyone. But I just felt that nudge to do it. I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. But looking back at my life, I realized it was always there from childhood. Now, fast forward to growing up, of course, my mother, at different points in time in her life, she's had health challenges, and it's Bimini who would nurse her back to health. So, at different times in my life, I've been faced with geriatric care unconsciously, and I fit the role so well in terms of caring, nursing, nurturing these elderly people to health. COVID came, and of course, I went to school, graduated, started a career, was in Deloitte for some years, investment banking, did the FMCG thing. And I recall that as I was approaching the age of 40, I started to ask myself, Bemini, if you died today, what would be said of you? What impact, what legacy have you built? What if people gathered at your funeral? What would they be saying? Is it that she's beautiful, she's nice, she's lousy? What exactly am I leaving behind? And it just started to occur to me then that life was beyond having a good job, having a 9 to 5 that paid so well. That was great. That was my reality because I did have a good run. I had an amazing career, and I was well paid, well paid. But then, those questions started popping up as I was approaching my 40th. And I was like, what am I doing? What's my life about really? What's my purpose? Am I fulfilling it? Am I making impact? And that period coincidentally was also COVID-19 period. And for the first time in my life, I became conscious of that geriatric care gap. Previously I had done something in that field, but it was unconsciously. But now it was brought to my consciousness during COVID. And I saw how very unprepared we were as a people in terms of elderly care. How very not on the priority list it was for us as a people, as Africans, generally speaking now. You know, many decades, many years ago, like it was a norm for elderly people to live within that extended family unit. As they grow older, Yoruba will say, "Toke seba dagba, omu omu e lo ma mu." Meaning, literally, that as a person ages, you start to depend on the younger one for care. So the extended family unit provided that, is a concept called the filial piety, whereby younger ones will take care of older ones and we continue to recycle that process. It's typically African. But then, what's our reality today? That is thinning out so quickly. If you take 10 families in Nigeria today, you would find that the kids who are in their teens, twins, are either out of the country, in the passport office, already getting their visas stamped, but there's just something about emigration on the table. And what does that do, or what does that mean for the parent, for the elderly one, or the about to become elderly ones? It just automatically means there's no care plan for them. Go back to government policy. In 2019, President Buhari signed into law the National Senior Citizens Bill. Thankfully, at least we've made a lot of progress on that, and a lot of policies have been put in place. But then, if we look at it, of the 9 million elderly persons we have in Nigeria, how well has that policy favored them? Social protection. Can senior citizens easily afford good accommodation, food, medication, healthcare if they are not rich, or if they do not have capable, financially capable children? The question is almost a capital NO, because we see it all over the society. Elderly people are, they're so not catered for. And, for many of them, it's passive income they depend on. They're not working any longer. So it's either there's a child financing, or for some of them, they are into petty trade. But don't also forget that at that age, they're slowing down. So their abilities are becoming limited. Summary of it all. During COVID, it became very obvious to me that we had a big problem that needed to be solved. We would naturally lean towards government to say, government, come help solve this. But the truth is, government may not be able to solve everything. Some of us are going to have to wake up to nudge government to say, hey, this is a problem here. These are possible solutions. Dear government, how do we work with you? How do we collaborate to ensure that we take care of this problem that is existing in our society? Everybody says Africa is a young continent. However young it may be, we've got 9 million plus senior citizens in Nigeria. By the time you start to multiply that across Africa, would we really say we're a young continent? Everyone is growing old. So the problem exists. Asia, Europe, America, the problem is much bigger there because their own aging population is more, in terms of numbers, it's in the double digits. We are gradually, maybe we're still 3%, 4% here in Nigeria and by extension Africa. But we're getting there. And the problem is staring us all in the faces. Sometimes you're walking on the street, you're seeing a 70-something-year-old man selling cheese ball in traffic. Like, what business has a 70-something-year-old man got to do with selling cheese ball in traffic? You can clearly tell this man needs to survive. You find even, and the problem cuts across whether you're wealthy or poor. For the wealthy, you would find elderly people lonely, feeling very isolated in their homes with their wealth. What a paradox. They have all of the money, everything, but there's this loud loneliness and isolation. Because for the wealthy, most of the kids are definitely abroad because they can afford it. And for wealthy people, sometimes the kids don't want to come back here. Things are not working here. They would rather be in a place where things work. There's electricity, there's the trains and all of those. So you find these parents who have worked so hard to send their kids to school, give them the best of education. They are now in their 70s. They are lonely. It's even worse off for those who lose their spouses along the way, maybe in their 60s. I think it's worse off for men, I think, when the women die, because women are nurturers. So, for those in their 70s that are, widowers, it can be really, really painful for them. I'm a member of Ikoyi Club, and sometimes I go to Ikoyi Club and I just look around and I'm looking at the geriatric population. You could find some of them there, maybe in the morning, they come, have their papa and akara, read newspaper, play lawn tennis, come back in the afternoon, eat eba, and you still find them there in the evening if you come back again. That tells us something. There's loneliness, there's isolation, there's nothingness that is happening in that segment. And that's what Full Circle Geriatrics is here to solve. So when I decided this was what I wanted to do, the first thing I did was to research what's going on in my country, what's going on in Africa, what exactly do we even have. That's how I stumbled upon the National Senior Citizens Act, which was a good one. I also found that there were actually players in this space, but very silent, very few number of homes. And even the homes at the time I started, there was not so much around regulations. So you would go into a home and you really wonder what's going on here, you know. But then I decided to volunteer to work in a home for a couple of months to even test my own theory. Like, was I just interested in it because it sounded good, geriatric care, you know, or was I really up to the task? Did I have the patience, the tenacity, the courage, the everything it required to actually care for that segment? Because it requires a ton load of patience. If you think caring for children is stressful, caring for seniors could be times two of that, because these are people who are set in their ways. For those who are made, they've seen life, they've been through, they've come through. So these are not people you can easily say, oh, you want to change something. No, 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 it doesn't really work like that. You just got to adapt yourself to what their way of life is if you really want to get through to them. So working in that home afforded me the opportunity to test my theory firsthand and see, am I just in it for the fancy name, or can I really roll up my sleeves and get to do the dirty work? And I found in the 4 months which I worked that yes, Bimini, you're called to do this, because I loved every moment of it. The dirty, the good, the bad, the ugly, I embraced it all. And I knew definitely that this was it. And this was what I was to do. Absolutely. So that gave me the confidence to say, yes, this is what I'm going to do. But I wasn't going to start out setting up a home, because in that same season, I found that the home, yes, it's a solution, it's one of the needed solutions. In fact, as well as the society is advancing, it's becoming a bigger need. However, there's something more subtle that is needed, which is things like solving for loneliness, community, companionship, platforms for people to come out, be together, play together, reminisce together, and just be happy. We needed to create a platform that would give meaningfulness to old age, that would give purpose, that would make that season, just purposeful, wholesome. That was for me a much more bigger problem and a low hanging fruit, so to speak, because if we could create community where seniors know that, oh, I can go in there maybe every day or every 2 days, and I would find a fellow senior whom I can have a cup of tea with and talk politics, read newspapers, or play a game with. It changes the game 100%. And we've seen that in the work that we do. We've seen people who were at their lowest, health wise, everything wise. They came into the community, found that they could, relate with others. They could identify with others. For those who maybe had serious health issues, they would see another person who's living with a worse situation and is thriving. That automatically challenges you to say, hello, life is for the living. Can we just live? you know, Nobody's assured of tomorrow. So let's make the best of today. So now we have an awesome, vibrant community of seniors. And since inception in 2022, we have actually reached well over 3,000 senior citizens through our many programs. One of our flagship programs is called Seniors Timeout. And Seniors Timeout is actually a charity wellness event for seniors. And we host it every month, every last Thursday of the month. It's just really a platform that brings seniors together in natural spaces. We're very big on nature. So we look out for natural spots, beautiful spots where they can breathe in oxygen from the trees, the flowers, they can smell the plants, they can be in nature and be part of nature again. That in itself is therapeutic. Whatever problems they've had at home, they come into this and there's good exchange of air, good exchange of energy, meeting people, laughing, dancing, exchanging contact, making new friends. Imagine you 90, making a new friend at 90. That's just something so beautiful and so awesome. And with that, the community has been growing vibrantly, and I'm very, very proud of what we've started, where we're at, and where we're headed. So let me stop there for now.
Thanks so much for that. And To be honest, there is so much to unpack in that, and we're going to I'm just going to take it slow, right? I'm not going to rush it. We will unpack it. By the way, who can believe that this woman here is more than 40, is older than 40, right? Well, I mean, again, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It's
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
All right. I mean, thanks a lot for all that you've shared, right? Now, you've touched on one of the initiatives that you lead with the senior, right? And I'm sure that there are a few others, right? Now, before I go back into that, all of what you have shared, I think you should just take a minute or two, right, to kind of give us like the full expose of all your offerings,
Okay.
right? And just for people to have like a full picture of what is available, right? Number one, then number two, if they want to sign up for this, right, or want to sign up for this for their people and all of that, for their seniors, for their parents and all of that, where can they go, right? And then we'll just take it up from there if that's okay with you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kunle, for that. Okay, so yeah, at Full Circle, we have quite a number of offerings on our list. So first of all, I've talked about Seniors Time Out, which is the charity pillar of our organization, and that's one way we give back to society. We recognize that everyone is at different spaces and at different junctions in their journey, even in the aging journey. And not everyone is as rich as the other. Not everyone is as poor as the other. But we just want to find a middle ground where everyone can come together, regardless of who you are, regardless of how much you've got in your pocket, regardless of if you've had a meal or not. Come into the community and feel welcome. So that's Seniors Time Out. We also do have other service offerings, like we run a day center service,
Sorry, the
and
senior. Sorry to cut in,
yeah,
Beverly. So the senior timeout is not priced, right?
no, no, no,
Is
it's free.
is is free? Is free?
Charity.
Okay,
It's been
okay. So
free from 2022
from
when we
from
started.
inception,
Yeah,
got
from
it, got it.
inception. And it's a monthly wellness
Connect.
event that is open to everyone. The only requirement is just to register, and registration is done on our website, www.fullcirclegeriatriccare.com. Now, we run a day center service which caters to individuals who want to have weekly outings. They want to have places to go on weekly basis. And it's not just about going places, it's about meaningfully connecting with others, doing things that are very meaningful, that are very targeted at your mental health, your cognitive health, your physical health, your psychological well-being. So we are very intentional about the the programs and the activity that we curate, and we make sure that it's well targeted, not just to make them laugh, but to ensure that they're aging gracefully, ensure that they're able to have a good quality of life, or a better quality of life than what they've had previously to coming in contact with Full Circle. So at the day center, we would engage in activities like music, dance. We do a lot of book reading because sometimes people feel that when they're old, they don't. Oh, my eyes, my this, I can't read again. You'll be amazed how many books we've read at the day center. We just pick on books and we read. And sometimes it's even beautiful to see that some of the stories are stories that maybe they knew in their teenage years. So it kind of then flows to become something of like a reminiscence therapy, where they're going back to 60 years ago, and they're now giving you their own version of the book that you just read. You can imagine the conversations that we elicit from all those kind of books. It's always mind blowing when we have our book reading activities, and for me personally, I learn a whole lot. I know the seniors learn, they engage, but I'm just always mesmerized at the kind of conversations that we get from the book reading. They also get to learn new skills. So we do things like playing of drums. They're learning how to play the piano. We have 90-year-olds who are learning to play the keyboard. You know, we get involved in garden physiotherapy, so we do group physio, so they're able to train up their muscles. Exercise things that are very relevant, Kegel exercises. Exercise that are relevant for their age. So they get to get involved in those kind of things. They play ball, handball, volleyball. We're about to introduce basketball now, but we're going to pace it. It's not the regular kind of basketball. It's going to be the one that is curated for senior citizens. But we know that they can do almost everything, but we just need to pace it in a way that is accommodating for their physical status and just where they're at on their journey. So we do a whole lot of exercise activities. In the past, we used to do a whole lot of excursions too. We have once upon a time gone on a train ride to Olumo Rock. We had 100 seniors on that train ride. So we just locked down a coach, and it was a beautiful event. And when I hear them talk about it sometimes, like, can you remember Olumo Rock? I remember one of the seniors, she was 89 at the time. And just driving through Abeokuta, she was telling us all the stories. I was a 5-year-old in Abeokuta, telling us how she was born. It was just so, 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 so beautiful. We've had to go to the beach at different times as well, just seeing them get their feet into water. At some point, I realized that some of these simple things of life that we take for granted, or we may take for granted, some of them, it's priceless for them. I remember the first time we took them to the beach. We just asked a random question in the group. When was the last time you went to the beach? For some, it was 40 years ago. For some, it was never been. Can you imagine being 70 and you've never been to the beach? So for me, that was like, oh my God. So we did have that. And it was so priceless. So, it's always beautiful to see how you're helping people lock in memories, beautiful, wholesome memories. So we do all of that. One other thing we do at Full Circle, we just in February launched what we call Memory Cafe. I'm very, very passionate about dementia care. And I have come to find on my journey that there are other approaches we can, adopt to manage dementia or cognitive impairment. Of course, I dock my hat always for the medical doctors, the neurologists, the geriatricians who are doing amazing work at, managing dementia. Unfortunately, it's got no cure yet. There's still a lot of research going on to see what can be done about dementia, but no cure yet. But then, on this journey, I found that there are non-clinical approaches that are able to help manage dementia more wholesomely. And that's what we are working on at the Memory Cafe. So the Memory Cafe is a non-stigmatized gathering of senior citizens who are living with dementia and their caregivers. Now, the caregivers are involved because in this part of the world, dementia is still a very strange concept to many. In fact, when you mention dementia in some crowd, people would ask, what's that? So you have to explain what it means. Or like, I know one woman. Oh, I know one man. Oh, my grandma. They now start to connect the dot that, so my grandmother used to act this way. Oh, it was dementia. So you see that there's such a big gap. Now, there's a big gap generally. Now, when it comes to care, there's a wider gap. Because what you don't understand, how do you then care for it? Or how do you manage? So when dementia happens to families, sometimes some people view it as a death sentence. And it's even worse when it happens to persons who have gone to the highest height in their careers, people who are high achievers, they are renowned, it can be very humbling. It can be very depressing. But there's hope because at the end of the day, the way I choose to see persons living with cognitive impairment is they're just in a different world at a different time and space. So we've got to try and figure out what world are they in? What time and space are they in? I'll give you an example. So we were experimenting one day at the Memory Cafe and we decided to use numbers. The sad thing about dementia, especially when it's advanced, it could the individual could become non-verbal. So they can't talk again because they can't remember how to talk. They can't remember how to form the sentences. But then we experimented with numbers And we would just show, we had plastic cards where we just show up a number, maybe it's number one, number two. And guess what? We found that even the non-verbal members of that cafe were able to verbalize. Do you know why? They could find that memory of when they were 5, 6, 10, 12, perhaps when they were learning one plus one is two. So when they saw that number, maybe the 10-year-old self came back and were like, I recognize it. That's number one. I recognize this is number two. This alphabet is K. And for us, that was a big learning. We work with a neurologist at our memory cafe because it's something new in Africa here. I don't know of any at all in Nigeria, so it's something new we just started, and we're working with experts to actually we would run the cognitive test, use all of the methods, the activities that we've curated, see how we're progressing with them, and we're tracking. And at the end of the stipulated period, we're actually going to do our own report and put out information out there on what we have found using our non-clinical approach to dementia care. And we're actually very proud of the outcomes we're seeing already. So that makes us really, really proud. The Memory Cafe, it's ongoing. It's on Wednesdays, and registration can be done on our website as well. We also do dementia consultation because we know how depressing the it is for families when they hear, oh, my mom has been diagnosed with dementia. It's just very depressing. So we help families through the different phases of, first of all, acceptance, dealing with it, what you can do about it. So we do all of those consultations, and all of those service offerings are on our website. So people can just go up to our website and register for any of our services over there. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I- Okay. So thanks a lot for sharing all of that. I don't know where to pick it from. Thanks a lot for sharing all of that. You see, when you were sharing, I can relate with that because I've had people pretty close to me, right? Who had dementia, right? And had to pass at some point, and the care can be so burdensome, right? So it's, of course, debilitating for the patient, right? But it's even more life changing for the people that have to take care of them. So I think what you're bringing here, it's a major intervention, right? That a lot of people will find very, very helpful, right? And I hope that maybe someday you're going to have like residential kind of interventions that people can, because I think that is we need to get there, right? Because
Work in
I think,
progress.
yeah, I know you. It needs to get really residential, and I think that a lot of value may be in there um, for us to unlock. But overall, for our viewers that are going to listen to it, I just want to encourage you. Please visit the website, right? Fullcircle.com, right? w
www.fullcirclegeriatriccare.com.
Fullcirclegeriatriccare.com, right? And
Yes.
just go and explore that. The contact details are there, right? And if you have an elderly person you're trying to find some interventions for, please reach out to Bimini and team, and I'm sure that they will be willing to support you. All right. Now, Bimini, let's come back to business now. Y- you mentioned something the other time that really caught my attention. You said that before you started this, right, towards the end of COVID, or right in the middle of COVID, you started asking very critical questions about meaning and all of that, right? And those are, and you came upon this whole concept around maybe all of these things have been orchestrated in a sense to lead you to these, and then you went to do some kind of internship, right? I need you to double click into that internship for me. What was driving you? what,
Okay. Now
you
you now
understand?
you're now you're sounding like my husband. Like, oh god, oh my god, this woman, I'm tired.
Kilo, kilo nigga, go. You know? So it would be
Okay.
good to have an idea, and I'm asking that because I think that um it's not I think it's something entrepreneurs can learn a lot from, right? Because a lot of us don't take that pain to say that I have this vision but I want to go and learn, especially if we're graduate, And we're going to talk a little more about your career, and I know how high you've gone, right? So for you to go that and say go that down and say I want to go learn this, I'm sure your husband must have like
Oh my God.
he must have been like, okay, let's see
Tired.
where this is going to. So please tell us.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm one person who's never afraid of starting afresh. I'll give you a very funny story. So I was 18 and my school then, OAU, was on strike. So I had told my dad I wanted to intern at a bank. He looked at me. People that have graduated have not gotten a job. You want to, you know? But I'm such a very troublesome child. So I said, Daddy, I'm going to intern. Oh. If you don't help me, I will carry my load, go to the village and go and ask people to give me letter. When he saw that I was very serious, he got me a letter and I got an internship. I think I interned in two banks while I was an undergraduate. And one of them, I recall that I didn't just like the way things looked there because I felt when people come to work, they must be empowered to do their jobs. I was in marketing. And I think that's where I decided, okay, this banking thing is not for me. Imagine as an intern, I resigned. Have you heard that before? I won't mention the name of the bank, but I resigned because I just felt, no, this is ridiculous. And I just told my dad, Daddy, I'm not working there again. I'm going to go and learn how to make hats. So I left to go and learn how to make hats. So that was one restart for me. When I worked in Deloitte, I had done about 4 years of my career before moving to Procter and Gamble. And I was told I had to start afresh because Procter and Gamble would not recruit middle level managers. You had to start from the band one. And I was like, that's fine. I felt it was a better offer for me. It was going to help me balance my family life and work. So I restarted. At the time, for some of my friends, it felt like, why would you discount all your 4 years? But for me, once I'm able to scale it and see that, oh, it works for me and it ticks more boxes, more positive boxes than negative, man, I'm going to restart. So I've had quite a number of restarts in my life. So I'm not afraid of restarting. I don't feel ashamed to restart. I think I've learned the hustle from very young. My both parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was into building materials. My mom had a mom and pop shop growing up. So I worked with both my parents and I know what it is to buy and sell. If you want to really make a headway in life, you can't be looking at who is looking at you. You got to face your hustle and get ahead. So I think I have that in my DNA. So restarting for me, it just even shows strength because it makes your story more credible. It makes it more interesting to whoever is reading or listening. Because a lot of people are afraid of restarting. They just feel like, oh my God, it's shameful, it's embarrassing. I don't see it that way. I see it as an opportunity to be better, to learn something new. And life itself is like it's in cycles. You're high today, you're low tomorrow, high today, low tomorrow. That in itself shows you starts and stops. So really, why are we afraid to restart? So I'm throwing that out the window. I'm never afraid. If tomorrow I have to start a game somewhere, I'll take it on. I'll embody it and I'll make the best of it. So now going back to why I went to intern, I realized that if I wanted to excel in this new field, because it was a new field at the time, my experience was in sales, marketing, finance. There was nothing like that in elderly care. So I figured I needed to get close to those who were practicing at the time. And I looked out for the person who was most renowned at the time. I just reached out to her, Googled her up, found her name. I think I got her number or I got her office address and I just drove down there. I said, the worst that happened is I get a no, and I'm not afraid of a no. So I walked in there, introduced myself, I sold myself, of course, and I said, I'm interested in this space. I feel God is leading me to do something here. But I don't just want to jump on the bandwagon. I need to understand how it works. I would like to work for you for free if you would let me. And she looks at me. I think she was shocked. She was confused. But she was like, If this person, I'm sure she was looking at my CV and looking at me, will say she wants to work for free. But it doesn't cost me anything. And she was like, feel free. And I came on, I would go to work in the morning, put on my scrub, put on my scrub, my Crocs, and do the work like every other person. Evening time, I put on my clothes back, get into my car, and go back home. In fact, my husband would look at me sometimes. I'm like, I'm sure if my husband were to write a book about me, he would be confused and he would laugh. Like, he just doesn't get it. Like, the way I could be very spontaneous. And I just make those, and I'm like, I'll just tell him, Bobs, I've done this. So, like, I don't particularly give him an opportunity to say, okay, do it or not do it. I would have done it. I can apologize, but I would have moved ahead. So I did do that. And I think for me, that was the biggest building block, or the most important building block of how I got to where I am today. If I didn't do those 4 months, I would never have understood what the real problem was. Because when you stay on the outside, you look at elderly care, you're like, oh, let's just build homes. But we were taught in P&G, you got to peel the onions. You got to drill down to understand, what is the crux of the matter? What's the real problem to be taken care of? What is that problem that when you solve, it takes care of many other things? And I found very quickly that it was wellness, that loneliness and isolation was the biggest concern. If we solved for loneliness and isolation, we would have solved for better overall health, better quality of life. You can imagine someone who's lonely, who's isolated, living in a mansion alone. Even if that person had only high blood pressure, give that person 6 months. He would have high blood pressure, diabetes will get on top of that. There will be depression, there will be a whole lot of other things. But imagine someone who is dealing with high blood pressure and maybe diabetes, and you give that person wellness, a place to go, something to do, a reason to wake up every day and say, I'm going to get dressed and step out of the house. In stepping out of the house, that blood sugar will be controlled, better controlled. In stepping out of the house, that high blood pressure, I promise you, the numbers are going to read better. So we're solving a lot of problems just by providing wellness, which would be a natural thing. But unfortunately, it's not. So I found out very quickly that that was the real problem. And that discovery was made when I decided to work for free for 4 months. Had I not done that, I would have thought that just building a home was the problem. And that was not really it. So I would encourage anybody listening out there, entrepreneur, whether you're a 9 to 5er, you must be hungry for knowledge, and you can't shy away from the crux of the matter. Don't be a surface level person. Dig deep to get it. I did a lot of research when I started to. In Lagos, I found out there were almost 20 homes. I visited 15 out of those 20. 15. I drove down there. I wanted to understand, how are the homes set up? What kind of facilities did they have? So I visited 15. I still have a book where I jotted down everything. So when I'm going to start my facility, when Full Circle is going to set up its own facility, we're taking all of the things that worked and things that didn't work from all the visitation I did, and we're going to do better. But that takes a lot of courage, determination, because driving to 15 different places across Lagos, even Ibadan, is not
Mm.
it's not child's play. It takes a lot of doggedness to do that. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Bimini. Really appreciate you sharing that. And speaking of, starting again, I remember you were in back in our days in P&G, right? You are in finance, right? And then you decided to come to sales, right?
Yes.
And the way you get into sales in P&G, right? The right of entry is, the
Starting
right of
afresh.
passage is starting afresh. You will put you on a van,
Yeah.
right? And then you go to the mom and pop stores,
Hmm.
and you have to do that. And though you've been working, in P&G for a couple of years and all of that, so I that kind of resonate with me, right? Because I can make that connection in my head. But just thinking about it now, I, I couldn't help, imagining you going to that home like every day, right? In your big car, I dare say, in your big car, And then you get there, you park, and I'm sure some of your colleagues will be like, "What's going on here?" Right?
Well, yeah,
Because
but
this woman, the, nothing around her or about her kind of aligns with this job she is doing. Right? How did you manage that kind of, I'm not sure there was any crisis out of that, but like colleagues, people who are just like interested. Maybe maybe she's a donor, she's an organ, you know, robber or something. Is she coming to? I don't know, but
honestly, Kunle, I think for me, when you're passionate about something, nothing can stop you.
you're not looking at.
All those things don't matter because at the
Mm,
end of the day, really at the end of life, we're not about our cars or about our jewelry or about the clothes we wear. We're just about our heart, how much we're able to give, how much we're able to really how much impact we're able to make. That's it at the end of the day. So I even just fail to see all of those things. Of course, a car is a means of transportation. All I need to do is get there. And when I get there, you're wearing your scrub, I'm wearing my scrub. So we're equals. And we get the job done. And when we're done with the job, everybody goes home. For me, that's just how I saw it. And I knew why I was there. That's another thing. Once you're clear in your head and your mind what you're doing, I knew I was here for a targeted period of time. And I knew I was there on a learning journey. So I wasn't mistaken. I wasn't there to compete with anyone. I wasn't there to take anybody's job. I was clear, no ambiguity. I was super clear what I wanted to do. And I took all my learnings very seriously, documented, observed. Sometimes I would do even more than I was supposed to do because I wanted better outcomes. I wanted to, at the end of that period, I needed to be able to tell a story and an authentic, true story of what I did, my findings, and I needed that to catapult me to where I was headed. So I was very clear why I was doing what I was doing. So I did all those other things were just, I would say, distractions which didn't really bother me. Yeah.
no, very very helpful. Two questions I just want to quickly ask you on that before we move on to the next the next set of questions. Number one question is, when you were starting that internship, were you clear on how much time you're going to spend on that journey, or it was like, let's make a start, right, and then when I feel I've learned enough, I'll call it a day? Were you clear on how much time you're going to spend? The second question is around, in the course of that internship, how often do you have like touch points with the woman, right? And how gracious was she? You don't have to mention names, in sharing trade secrets or what's going on and all of that, and how instrumental have all of that been in, you setting up what you've set up so far?
Okay, I think for me, I was super clear when I was going to start. I just knew I needed a couple of months. But what I was also clear on was if I felt I hadn't learned enough in a couple of months, I was either going to extend it or go to another home to do the same so I could compare notes. But the home I did work in was best in class because that was the only thing I could do. Like I really researched and I found out this was the one I really thought would help me. So I was very clear on the timeline I wanted to, spend there. And on also value exchange. That's always very big for me because someone giving you an opportunity to work for free, it's really a huge opportunity because she could have said no. So when someone gives you that opportunity, you also must bring value to the table. And value to the table for me was being very observant and seeing what were the gaps even within that organization. What could be done better? So of course I had touch points. Yes, I had touch point. And of course, I'm coming from a multinational background. I understand how to run a business. So I would sit with this person and say, I think if you added one or two or three things, it would actually enhance and make better. Their wellness wasn't a really big thing. That was when I actually found out this wellness is the real problem that needed to be solved. So I had actually asked them to introduce games, start taking them on walks, if possible, take them on excursions. I had actually recommended those things. And when I did start mine, I always extended invitations to that home to say, bring them over, let's let them join us, let's have things together. And we do have a very good rapport till date here. So it was always about, for me, value exchange is a must in any relationship. You must bring value to the table, and the other person or the other party must see you as valuable regardless.
Brilliant. So, I mean, friends out there, right? So, if you're going to ask, go and ask for some internship opportunity, that don't just go there cap in hand to say, you know, you must be willing to, bring something to the table, right? Because it's a learning opportunity and you need to exchange value. That was very helpful. Now, Bimini, before we go so much into the future, I want us to take a little bit, and you've given us a little bit of like a snapshot into your background, your parents, your mom, your dad, and how they raised you, and all of that. That was very helpful, right? But I met you in P&G, right? And I know before P&G, even in P&G, you are a force of nature. You are a force of nature. So, and so for you to, you left P&G, you went to, I think, Diageo, and then you were with a couple of startups, right? And then eventually you are with Deloitte, and then a couple of startups. And so it's been a journey, right? And I want you to just if you can share a little bit about that, and if it is possible for you to just say, okay, these are the key learnings that I think I picked along the journey, along the line. In P&G, I learned this. In Deloitte, this was it for me. And when I went to Diageo, I got these. And when I in the foray into all of these startups and all of that, right? These are the things, and all of these to an extent have helped me in the way I've built, and shaping the way I build what I do now. Is that clear enough?
Sure, sure it is. Okay, so what I
All
won't
right,
do,
all
I
right.
won't mention particular names of organizations, but I would just try and talk the
Okay,
story in phases. So I'd
okay,
say my very first exposure to life and how to navigate came from my home. So I was raised by a father who was a disciplinarian and a self-made man. We're all girls in the family I come from, but my father raised us as being capable of doing whatever a boy or a girl could do. So, in my father's eyes, we were not just girls, we were wholesome individuals. That's who my father raised. And my mother raised us to be compassionate, content with whatever we had, and just be good humans. So there was a very good balance of knowledge, of streets, being streets. Yeah, we got that a whole lot. Just very good balance. We went to great schools. My father was very big on education. We came from, I come from an average home. I wasn't brought up with a silver spoon, but I was opportune to go to the best of schools, and I ended up schooling with children of very rich people. So I understood how the rich operated, even though I was from an average home. And I also understood what poverty was, because even in where I grew up, there was average and there was poor. So I would say that I joke a lot and tell people that, see, if you anywhere you put me in life, I would survive. Like, our P&G story. Like, I will go to Mushi Market and I'm blending in the market. Take me to a five-star hotel and I will speak the English you want to hear. So I learned really how to navigate very well in life, and thanks to my parents. Now, going into school, work life, I'm really grateful for the career I had. I had a very wonderful career. And I learned very early, even from my NYSC days. No, I'll say from my internship days when I interned in those banks. I knew what I wanted and I knew what I did not want. The experience I had, unfortunately, shaped me, and I knew I wasn't going to work in a bank. I wanted something more meaningful for my life. And thankfully, I got to work in Deloitte. That was very meaningful work. Lots of training, got to travel around Nigeria quite a great deal, met a lot of great people, learned how to work, operate, function in a team, because it was teamwork. I learned that a whole lot. And I also learned, I'd say I learned how to write really well in Deloitte, thanks to all of those who coached me then, from my managers to the partners in ERS who trained us. I learned how to write reports so well in Deloitte. And when I came into FMCG, that was a big deal. Like, report writing was everything we did. So that training from Deloitte was super instrumental. And I'll say that in my P&G experience, which was a 10-year long career, Sales was where I found myself. You call this out that I had that restart from finance to sales because for me, after doing finance for a while, I felt, wait, I asked myself, what makes the organization tick? One day I just sat and I asked myself, it's not about crunching numbers. I'm crunching numbers because some people are doing the core work. And I like to be where things are happening. So I said to myself, is either I move to sales or to marketing. I wasn't sure which one I would fit. After speaking to some people in marketing and sales, marketing, you just keep writing reports every day. And I said, no, I like action. So I'm very grateful that I found myself in sales, and that taught me a whole lot. I'd say my ability to run a business today came from that sales experience in P&G. And you know what you mentioned around getting on the van to sell? Oh my God. That was fundamental. Like I look back, it was stressful, but that was me learning the fundamentals of sales for real. No jokes here. Because if you can't learn to do the rudiments, how do you want to be Oga? You've got to start climbing a tree from bottoms up. And if I look at society today, this is one of the biggest misses we're also seeing because people just want to become managers. They don't know that there's something like getting on the van, loading goods onto the van, getting to the shop, making sure you sell to 25 stores. I did that for 3 months. And guess what? I was selling in my hood. I lived in Surulere. So there was nowhere to put that shame. I lived in Surulere and I sold in Surulere. And I ran into a couple of my family friends at different
Right.
points in time,
And they'll be
but
like,
you know what? I embodied it. I embodied it. I wasn't stealing. It was a boss. Yeah, it was okay. And today, looking back, everything I do on my business, the ability to, layer everything one after the other. When you need to unpack, the ability to unpack, and people don't just mumble things up and just give you one pack of untrue information, was from those numbers. And I remember at the end of that selling experience, my accounting was on point. Nobody could say, oh, they took one thing. It didn't happen to me because I was very, very on point with my counting, with my reporting, with my payments. That was for me almost like a master's degree, that 3 months. And, going on to sales to run a big part of P&G's business, run it successfully, transition from a big distributor to an international distributor with zero business loss at the time. We were just coasting and learning and going, but it was really it was putting together the building blocks for what I was going to do in my future, even though I didn't know it then, which is, I think, the reason why whatever our hands find to do, we've got to do it well. Because in doing it well, you're seeding your own. That's what it is. Because today, when I say to my staff, and I remember another organization I worked in, I learned there how not to run a business because it was just all over the place. But even that experience was profound because it just showed me there are two sides to every coin, to every business decision, to every information. There's perspectives. There's how people see this, how this set of people see that. There's how some people react to things. You've got to consider all of this when you're journeying as an entrepreneur. It's not about how you feel alone or what you think. It's not about profit alone. It's really about value creation. And how do you ensure that the value that you're proposing, that you're creating, is being perceived truly as value? Because that is the only time that the cycle is complete. You may think you're bringing value. If your audience don't see it as value, that business is gone. You don't have a business. When we were going to start, nobody was doing wellness at the time. I had to crack my head. How do I propose wellness as a solution? We started out at Ikoyi Club, and our first audience was 5 people, including my mom. I wasn't discouraged because I was like, if these 4 people could come here today, That is progress. We're going to ride on it and make sure we convert that 4 to 10 to 20 to 40 to 100. And today we have reached over 3,000. There's something about consistency. There's something about courage, courageous leadership. You're just going to have the courage, and you must find creative ways of selling the value that you're bringing to the table. It doesn't stop at you just thinking it's valuable. You must sell it, and people must receive it, see it, feel it, and perceive it as value. Yeah,
That reminds me of a key learning we got while doing our active selling days, right? Features tell,
absolutely.
benefits sell, right?
Absolutely.
Benefits sell. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. There is a quote, right? That comes up now and then when we run selling training or sales training for people, right? And it's a quote from one of the CEOs. I think it goes like, nothing happens yet. Nothing happens until someone sells something, right? We all can be speaking English. We can be knocking the numbers to get. If somebody doesn't get sold, all of us are going to pack up our shop one day, and everybody will go back to their houses. So that's very helpful thought, right? So all the learnings that you've got, and then eventually you got into startup and all of that. Now, before get step into that entrepreneurship and starting your stuff, right? Now, you mentioned a number around, um the number of old people, right, that we have. You said 9 million. Okay. Now, and I know that that 9 million is all over the place, right? A lot of that can be sliced and diced into different segments, different audience, different needs, different depending on where they are geographically, demographically, and all of that, right? I guess what I'm trying to get to, Bimini, is how did you know, kind of settle on whatever your niche is and whatever your target audience is? Because if the need is so much, right? You will have to define how you want to play, right? Your where how to play, where to how to play, where to play choices. You have to make those choices, and I'm wondering if there is any thought you can share with us, right? And it doesn't have to be like super scientific, but some of these things at times can be common sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you arrive at, okay, I want to focus on this and that and these other ones? Okay, maybe I'll leave it for some other guys to come and help with.
Okay. So the reality of it is, because I run a social enterprise.
Yeah.
I don't run a charity.
Mm.
I don't run an NGO. So it's a social
Okay.
enterprise. And I'm very quick to tell people I don't run an NGO. So it's it's a sustainable business model that I run.
It pays for itself, right?
It's yes.
That's the difference,
Yes.
right? Okay. Mm.
Yes. But at the start, it was important first and foremost to prove that concept that it could
Mm.
work. You remember I said nobody was playing in that space of wellness. How do you even sell wellness? Elderly people. Most people, if you tell them, just give them food now, give them supplements, that's typically what it is, you know. And I said to myself that no, we have to do it differently. People must see value. And at the beginning, there was so many no's I got, because the truth is, even pricing was a challenge. How do I price wellness? You know, because if you were to sell a Ashwebi and you tell people it's 100,000, the society and our culture has groomed the mindset that, oh, Ashwebi, I would identify with them, I'll take pictures with them, I'll get a souvenir while going home. So that justifies the 100K. But if you want to sell wellness, just to leave my house and come and sit down, read book, have a cup of tea, you know. So that was the real work we had to do. And that's why we started with seniors timeout, because I figured the first thing to do was not to tell people to pay. The first thing to do was to give them a taster of what it is. Give it to them over a period of time. See how it settles. And you know, the truth is, before we started the day center, it was request based. I always said to my husband that my business is going to be demand driven, because that's the only model that would keep you sustainably making profit. So when we started, it was once a month. And we started getting people who say, oh my God, my mom enjoyed herself. Oh, she's so happy. Can you increase the frequency of this activity? When we got that from the first person, second person, and it started becoming something that was coming up, we knew it was time to start the day center. That's how we started the day center. So over the years, it was just, we would have an idea, seed the idea, just see how we say it, experiment. When people embrace it and start calling, oh, this, can we, let's talk about it, you know, you've got something going. So we will start. So that everything we have launched, every activity program, it was demand driven. And thanks to the FMCG background I've got, because you must understand how to generate demand. You must be able to unlock it. Otherwise, you have no business. And even in generating demand, you must constantly think ahead of the curve. How do you keep it going? We're at an expansion phase in our business now, and we're doing that delicately too. Because the truth is, there are geriatrics everywhere. And these 9 million people we're talking about, they are domiciled in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, everywhere, every part of Nigeria, and by extension, Africa. How do we reach them? We're in the era of technology, AI is here. How are we going to leverage to reach more people? So those are the conversations we're having internally now to say, how are we going to, because what we're doing is amazing. We get a lot of comments every day on social media. We have a lot of followers in the diaspora who are always amazed that, you mean this is happening in Nigeria? It's unbelievable. You know, when we see those comments, we just laugh. We're like, come on, people are thinking right here too. You know,
We are not savages. We are not savages.
not all of us are going to Japa, because if we the 200 plus million of us are not going to leave Nigeria. Some
Are
of
you
us are going to
shading? Are
stay
you
back
shading me
home
right now? Are you
and make
throwing shades
things
at me
work.
right now?
Yes, I'm throwing shades.
Are you throwing shades at me right
So
now?
some of us are going to stay back, make things
Mm,
work, so that you
absolutely.
guys can come back and invest here.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
so really, I think at the end of the day, it's just really to know what you're doing. You need to be super duper confident in your value proposition, in what you're selling. Like,
Yeah.
I eat, breathe, and sleep full circle.
Mm,
I was telling someone some days ago that everything I have is in full circle right now, and I have zero regrets, because I believe that we're onto something really, really great. Those of us that are in our 40s, we've just got another 20 years to become full circle clients.
mm-hmm.
You know, so so we're building for that time.
You are
You
catching
know,
them young.
yes, we're building for that time. And we
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
to do it delicately, thinking outside of the box, understanding the trends, understanding how the world is evolving, understanding aging care practices, how that is also evolving. So that's really what we're doing at Full Circle. And we know we're onto something really great. And definitely, 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 there is a market for aging care. And we're here to take that market. We can't reach everyone. So definitely we need more full circles. We need people to invest in aging care in Africa, in Nigeria. Because all the people you're living back home, you know, I give you an example. We get calls from people in diaspora a lot. My mom is back in Nigeria. Just today I was talking to a client. She's a doctor in the UK. Her mom is right here. She's left her mom to the care of some distant cousin, and I had to tell her, babe, your mom is not getting the best of care. You got to do something different about it. She's in the diaspora. She needs all the help. She needs a full circle. Okay, full circle, what can you do for me? How can you help me make sure she's eating well? There's so much to unpack here. And we can't even do everything. We can't. So we need collaborators, we need investors, we need people who can look into the future and see that there is really a market here and take position now. I think that's what we need to do. We're also collaborating with government because we know government is a big stakeholder. There's nothing we can do without government. So we continue to engage. We're in very close contact and conversation with the NSCC, National Senior Citizen Center. They have a lot of plans in place, and we are going to be working with them to make sure that these plans are not just documented on paper, but they actually brought to life. And we would support because from our practice we can tell some things maybe could be done this way, this could yield this could yield that. We're happy to provide all of our own experiences and information that is helpful to government as well. But we do need to collaborate with government, with private, with those in the diaspora. A lot of people will tell you, oh, aging care, senior citizens, there's no ROI. I smile. I take a deep breath and I'm like, I agree with you. ROI may be question mark, but the truth is it is the destination we're all headed, you know? So we're better off making sure we do something about it. And the generation of those coming may even be worse because I think you and I will still care about our parents. We'll probably call them once a week. But the people we're raising, so we need to take position now and make sure that we plan for our own aging, our own old age. There's so much to unlock there, and I really do call on people to pay attention to this segment. There's so much white space. There's so much to unlock. There are some of us that have gone ahead to really understudy the space. We understand the space. We are open to collaborations, to investors, and we can really make this big. Africa can actually teach the world how to do aging care so that we don't get to where Asia and Europe and America all are today.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I mean, thanks a lot for sharing that. I will try and unpack it a little bit just to drive home the key point around, um, you know, uh, quantifying and identifying target audience, right? I guess the big thing you said about that is people should be willing to experiment, right? Crystallize what you want to do, but don't just take your own word for it. Try it out with people, right? And as you try it out, if there is demand for it, you begin to sense from the conversation. I really love the whole idea of the things that you're doing are value driven. They are demand driven, so to say. Yeah, they are demand driven, which means that y- I mean, maybe ROI may not be in the stratosphere, may not be up there, but you can place a fair value on it, right, and demand it because there is really a need for it. You're solving for something, and the people that really value it will be willing to pay for it. So that's super 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 helpful. Now, you also mentioned something because I was going to double click into that conversation around collaboration, right? And I'm thankful that you mentioned the collaboration with government and all of that. The other side of that I want to look at is, to what extent do you collaborate today, right? I think it's and I think it's a kind of two in one question, to be honest. On one hand, to what extent do you collaborate with, say, people within the medical space? And I observed earlier that you are giving them their flowers, right, in terms of what they do, for you know the whole clinical practices around taking care of elderly and dementia and all of that, right? So you're giving them their flowers, but to what extent do you um, collaborate with them today from a demand creation standpoint? Do you get what I mean? Like, so I know that within the pharmacy space, right, there is what we call detailing, right? That I basically just go to hospitals or I think it's in the medical, yeah, detailing. We go to the hospital not to go and sell, but to basically show them, this thing. Is there anything like that you using to drive kind of demand creation on one hand, and then on the other hand is the whole thing around how are you creating awareness of this? I've seen stuff that you do, right? No question asked about the quality and all of that, but has it become like, top of mind, like everywhere, because it's a big deal, right? And I
Mhm.
think that my mom just passed in December, right? And
Sorry about that.
right, so and I she got good level of care and all of that, but I know there are a lot of people who are probably having, one or two issues. How do we manage this? We can refer this, we can refer that, but I think that this may, there may be need to um do more, right? If not more is not already being done along that line. So what are your thoughts, and what are the things you're doing
Okay.
along that line? Two questions, right? It
Yeah.
looks like
So,
mouthful, but indulge
all
me.
right. Okay. Thank you for that. So, I'll first of all talk about how we're collaborating with those in the medical field, and then how are we driving awareness. So, there's no aging care without collaboration with the clinical experts. Let me put it that way. So, even on our team, we have doctors. So on the full circle team, we have doctors we work with, neurologists, we have experts because elderly, this elderly segment, they are the ones who need all the expert, the neurologists, the cardiologists, the endocrinologists, because different things go wrong at different points in time. So they need all of this care. So we do have where, in fact, I think I would almost say that every geriatrician in Nigeria is on my phone, like on my speed dial, like all the ones, and they're not many. In fact, I give a lot of kudos to these medical experts who chose to stay back. For me, I give them a lot. In fact, I doff my hat because it takes a lot. It's passion actually that gets them to stay. Because I can promise you, all of them have gotten offers to leave the country. Some of them have just chosen, we're going to stay here, make a difference. And every time we need to, because we have some teaching series that we do at Full Circle as well, where we just pick on different kind of ailments that are common in old age, and then we just try to demystify them. So we have that series called maybe demystifying incontinence, demystifying dementia. And how do we demystify if we don't get the subject matter experts, the doctors, to come and converse with our elderly population? And we found even from all of this series, the knowledge they're getting. Like I remember one of the seniors when we did the demystifying dementia. Like I told you, a lot of people don't understand it. She said she went back home, and one day I think her neighbor walked away and they were looking for the neighbor. So she was able to quickly tell them, oh, please, you need to take her inside. She observed that she had some of the traits she had learned at Full Circle, that, when people begin to ask repeated questions, look confused, you need to watch out. Something is wrong somewhere. You've got to get them tested and know how we start to manage. She said she was able to save her neighbor because she had noticed that, and she quickly called their attention and they got her neighbor back to safety. That's small. It's a drop in the ocean, but it's so important and relevant. Information is power. So we collaborate with doctors, first of all, to provide information. Because when you have information, you navigate better. You're empowered. So empowerment is so critical, it's key. We would provide from the social aspect of things, but the doctors would always provide from the clinical aspect of things. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were also released, and I'm also grateful to a lot of medical experts in the diaspora who have been reaching out as well. So a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora are very interested, and they're like, we love what you do. We want to collaborate. How do we? I was talking to a doctor, a family medicine practitioner in the UK the other day, and she was saying, "I'd like to come for one of your series, and I'm very interested in what's it called? Adverse drug reaction from I forgot what the term is. And I'm like, oh my god, you just touched on something that is so important to me. Kunle, if you take 10 out of 20 senior citizens, they are overdosing on supplements because somebody, oh my, because somebody in the UK, the doctor in the UK has sent one that is for eye. for ear. The one in the US send the one that is for arthritis and for leg. So they have this stash, their stash of drugs. You'll be amazed. So sometimes when we get the geriatrician to go review them at home, the first thing they review is, Mama, 20 tablets per day. Ha, who did we offend? Ah, they said this one is ginkgo biloba. It's good for my eye. They said this one is good for my teeth. They said, one doctor said here, one daughter said there, one son said there, and they are now taking everything. So that's a real problem here. And it's huge. We don't talk about it enough, but it's a concern. So I was so happy to go into that collaboration. We're trying to set up dates and ensure that we address it. In fact, I'm like, if it's possible, can we just turn it to a series whereby we just tell them, bring all your meds. Let's even look at it. Let's read. Because the truth is, for this, for science, for the people who did the sciences, there's chemical reactions. There are some drugs you don't take together. There's some things that shouldn't go with. So who's checking all of that? All they just hear is, oh, they said this one is for my high blood pressure, this one is for my ears, for my nose, and they're consuming. So we need to look at that. And I'm grateful to all the medical experts who take their time, the pharmacists who take their time to, maybe when the senior um, needs medication, they explain. Because some of us senior citizens, maybe they don't have the capacity to read through and maybe compare notes or Google. They just consume. But really, people need to compare. And this thing about supplements, there's so much. I think we need to be preaching healthy eating, gardening, eating from our gardens, just healthy activities, lifestyle management, as opposed to overloading supplements onto our systems. So those are places where we collaborate a lot with medical experts because you see, we can't do that on our own. We need them. We also collaborate with government very closely. In Lagos State here, we collaborate with the Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme. A lot of our seniors are on Lagos State Health Insurance Scheme, and from time to time they come to visit just to be sure that the seniors are fine, they're being well attended to. That's something that Lagos State is doing right, and our seniors are great beneficiaries of that scheme. So that's going really well with government. On the federal level, we're also in talks with the National Senior Citizen Center to see what we can unlock there. So we are not shy of collaborating, even with fellow people who are doing working in similar practices like homes. We are part of the Lagos State Association of Elderly Care Practitioners. So whenever things come up, we're definitely happy to lend our voice, show support, and just come together because the problem we're solving is big. Those of us trying to solve it were like this. So we need to come together. We need to do more, and there's a whole lot we can do together. So definitely, we're not shy of that. Now, on the question of marketing, how are we getting our voices heard? The things we do. I thank God for the era of social media because it's really lifted us from point A, from zero visibility to where we're at now, where we're gaining visibility, not just in Nigeria, across the globe, actually. The simple things we do. And I keep saying to everyone that life is really simple. The things we need to do to live wholesomely, meaningfully are the simple things when we really look at them. What are the simple things? Wake up every day, have a friend you need to visit, play games, eat healthy, just go out there. It's not the most expensive things that makes life worthy. It's just I'll say maybe intentional things that we do. So and I have quite in terms of the organization, we have very young staffers. In terms of, we have volunteers, young people who are just very enthused and like, oh my God, I like to work with senior citizens. So we have those people. Like, our volunteer list is quite enormous. Sometimes we're like, please, we need more senior volunteers. Everybody. But that's really an amazing thing because when I look at it, I'm like, I'm happy that young people are also getting to see that volunteering is such a thing. Like, when you give of your time, you're learning. And it's almost like you're going to school for free because you could do a lot of other things with that same time. But being with seniors, if you're observant enough, if you're paying attention enough, they're learning something. There are people who volunteer with us when they're on midterm break, they're coming to volunteer. When any little break, they're coming. And I'm like, these people, they don't know it, but they're really positioning themselves for a great future ahead. They can decide to pivot at any point in time. And just like me, when I was taking care of my grandma, that I wasn't conscious, taking care of my grandpa, this could be that unconscious moment for them. And somewhere in the future, it's just going to add up and they just get the key to move. So that helps us. Social media is amazing. We've gone on a couple of radio shows and just like the podcast we're having now. So when we get invites like this, we're definitely happy to come on to tell our story because storytelling is a thing. And also we have I think last year we shot our first ever documentary called Project Diamond Years. It's available on YouTube. So what we did in commemoration of the International Day of Older Persons, which also was the 65th independence anniversary for our country, Nigeria. And according to WHO, World Health Organization, 65 is actually when you can be called a senior citizen. So
Really?
Nigeria is a senior citizen.
He's a senior citizen. He's a
So
senior
in
country.
commemoration of that day, we decided to just shoot a documentary that was going to get our seniors to talk about the yesteryears.
Mm,
So we had people sharing their moment of Nigeria's independence, where they were on
mm.
that day. We had people who said, "Oh, I was a race course." You should go see the documentary. It's such an amazing. I think it's a 45 minutes.
It's on YouTube, right?
Yes, it's on YouTube. It's
Okay, I'll
beautiful.
dig
It's
it.
amazing, and we hope to do more of such as well because I think there's so much that sits within that aging segment. I'll give you an example. My grandmom was so knowledgeable about herbs. Like, if you said, "Grandma, my eye," she knew what to go get in the garden that she would put in there, and your eye will be fine. But growing up, I always thought my grandmother would live forever. So the day she died, I was like, "What? Grandma died? Oh my god!" She didn't. I went to my mom. I said, "Mommy, what was this thing that grandma is?" I don't know. What was this other thing? I don't know. I'm like, God. I went to my uncle. Uncle, what? None of her four kids knew. And now that I'm in the position, one of the things I'm starting to preach to my geriatric population is document your life. The life you've lived, document it. Tell us about your journey, the things you learned along the way. That someone else who is currently 10 years old can pick your book, read it, and pick a big lesson that would, either push that person into his or her future or help that person not to derail. That's something I'm starting to preach now. Like, and I say a lot. So there's something we do at the Memory Cafe, which is also reminiscence therapy. So we ask our seniors to bring their photo albums through the years. Oh my God, you need to witness one of such. And when they start, oh my God, I was 25 here. They tell you the story of that picture, what happened, why that picture was taken, who was in that picture, if it was a fight with someone, if it was a wedding. And you know what that does? It makes them happy. It joggles memory. And at the end of that activity, they are refreshed. They've got more adrenaline to go another maybe 2 more months, 3 more months. And ultimately, it's driving longevity. So documenting our journey is such an important thing. And because these elderly people, they've seen so much that we haven't seen. They know so much. We shouldn't let them go without extracting of that knowledge, of that wisdom, of that history. One thing I think we haven't done too well in Nigeria in particular is we haven't documented our history so well. And that's what we can get from our seniors citizens. So in the future, we're looking at situations where we start to do intergenerational exchanges. So that's something that's very big as a project for us. Intergenerational exchange. You could be exchanging stories. You could be exchanging recipes. You could be there's so much in that space. So I repeat again, collaborators, investors, there's so much where this is coming from. You guys should please come on board. There's a lot going on here, and it's a good place to invest and to be at this time in our world, in our life.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing that. But I still have a few questions to ask you. So I will try and make it pretty quick, right? So that we can run very quickly. Um, Number one question. So I will let me ask maybe two to three questions together, and then if you can just touch on them very quickly, and then we just move on. Number one is around if we're going to scale impact in this your space, right? I don't know, maybe you're thinking along the lines of starting like an academy at some point, right? You know that I can come and learn, and then I can then do you get what I mean? I mean, if it is a thought, it may be what if you can double click into that. The other one is around you mentioned investors and all of that, and since that is about money, I want to share a little, if it is okay, right, on how you funded this, right? Did you have to just all of your savings and everything? You just say I'll put everything into it, or did you raise funding from here and there, and then hopefully we'll also be able to get some investors in the near future who can also be a part of it. So those two questions very quickly, and then I will ask two more final questions, and and then we'll go. So let's see if we can wrap up in. By the way, we've been speaking for 1 hour 30 minutes. By the way,
Oh,
just to let you
okay.
know.
Just
I
just to
told you.
okay, just recap the first question. I know the second question you said funding. How have we funded? What was the first?
No, so are there thoughts towards like having some
Academy.
kind of
Okay.
an
All right.
academy where
Okay.
you
Got you.
can
Got you.
kind of multiply that the impact of what you're trying to do within?
Sure, sure. So I'll start with the first one, which is the academy. Definitely, we have that in the pipeline because, if you recall, when I started talking about dementia, which is something I'm so passionate about, there's such a huge knowledge gap around. In fact, around elderly care, there's a huge knowledge gap, let alone dementia, which, if you also look the statistics, we're seeing an increase in number of seniors who are presenting with dementia. And we're even seeing an increase in number of 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are presenting with dementia. So it's no longer something for elderly people. We're seeing that it's cascading downwards to even younger set of people. So there's an urgent need to drive awareness, education around what dementia is, what methods to use in managing dementia, aside from the clinical, because of course the hospital, the doctors will deal with the clinical, but then it's not just about popping drugs. There's the lifestyle aspect of how they're living. Because if you give them drugs every day, they still have to live. They've got to get up, they've got to eat, they've got to have social interactions. How are we moderating that? Now, for the caregivers, because many of us, would get random nannies, house help, who have zero understanding of what dementia is. So in at our memory cafe, that's why we actually extend it beyond the person living with dementia to say this program is for the person living with dementia and the primary caregiver. The reason is we need to include the caregiver in that process so that the caregiver gets an understanding of what is going on. If you know better, you will do better and there will be better outcomes. So we've got to train them by involving them. So all of the activities at the memory cafe, the caregivers are involved. So when they leave the cafe, the expectation is that when they get back home, even if it's once a week or twice, they will get to repeat some of the activities we have modeled for them at the cafe. Now, setting up an academy even further helps to get more people trained, to understand it, to be able to demystify it, to be able to care appropriately for the person living with dementia. That is only when we can have good outcomes when it comes to caring for persons living with dementia. So our academy definitely is something we are positioning for in the future. We want to be able to train people on how to offer care to senior citizens so that the cases of elder abuse can, you know, if we cannot fully eradicate it, let's reduce the statistics. Sometimes people abuse senior citizens not because it's intentional wickedness, it's just lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. If I don't know why you're behaving the way you are behaving, there's a high chance that I could get frustrated and mistreat you. But if I understand, if I understand, I'll be I would, there'll be empathy, and I'll treat you better and there'll be better outcomes. So we've got to close that knowledge gap. That's as regards the academy. To the second question, which is around investments. Yeah. So I kid you not, coming into this space was me putting all my head in. Everything I had had to go in first. However, along the line, we've gotten support. We've also done a bit of fundraising. Yeah, and yeah, we've gotten some sort of support so far, but then it's still a drop in the ocean, I would say, because this space requires a whole lot, especially when we're talking about building memory care facilities for persons living with dementia. That's a whole different level of investment in terms of what it requires, and even globally, there's not so many memory care facilities. So dementia is a global concern. Everyone is still trying to understand dementia globally. Just that some are more advanced in the learning on that learning curve than we are here. But then it's doable. That's why we have experts who, like, I went back to school to go and learn about this, because if I'm going to play in this field, I've got to be skilled, appropriately skilled for it. So I've gotten the skill set that I need. Now is to play it out, implement, and get a lot of support. So far there's been a lot of friend family fundraising, there's been ex-colleague kind of fundraising, but then we're really looking for the big bet. We're looking for those who will take a big bet on Africa, take big bets on Nigeria, and say, this space, we've got to make it work, because we've got all it takes here. I promise you, we've got all it takes. There are new players every day. People are thinking out of the box a whole lot these days, and are seeing that there's so much we can do to offer better quality of life to our senior citizens. And when we get it right, what it does for us is we know that we're also going to live better when we get there. So it's not an investment that's going to waste. It's not going to waste. So I want to assure anyone who's thinking about investing and thinking, oh, there's no ROI after this phase. What next? No, there is, but it's going to be a patient build up, because there really there's no script. There's really no playbook for Africa. The old playbook we had was the extended family care pattern, which is gradually fading up. So we're now writing a new script for how we want to treat or care for senior citizens. So let's do this together. If you're interested in this, please reach out. This is the market, good soil to invest in. Thank you.
Please reach out. Please reach out. That's very helpful, right? I mean, great to know. You put your money where your mouth is, as we used to say, right?
Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
then you can then with confidence ask people to come and pitch in, because I mean you've done a lot, and I'm sure that investors will come around. Final two questions, and I will allow you
Okay.
to go. I know the time is already up, right? Final two questions. I know you've mentioned you have volunteers, you have doctors, you have people within your network that support you, right? Are there any, in your journey, right, dealing with people, right, either as an entrepreneur or before and all of that? Are there pain points you've learned, right? And pain points that you've experienced, right? And how would you, um, how what would your advice be in managing people, people, processes, and all of that? Just general thought on one hand. Then on the other hand is to every young entrepreneur out there, right, who is nursing a dream to do what you're doing one day, right? What would be your final word to them to say that, yeah, I'm still on the stage, guys, but I'm not going anywhere yet. So not final in that sense, but in
Yeah.
sense like, okay, end of this interview, guys, this is the gem I want to leave with you. If you do this, I think you're gonna be fine. And then we can call it a wrap.
Okay. Thank you once again. So, on this journey, like any other journey, getting the right people continues to be one of the biggest challenges any entrepreneur would face, aside from financing, because finance always is a setback. But you've got to just keep going. And I always talk about showing up consistently. I think consistency is what has gotten full circle thus far. When we just started, when everything we were doing it for free, there are some months of like, are we going to pull this through? Because we only had cost units then. There was no revenue point. It was just cost, 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 you know? So, for consistency, and people are watching. That's the truth. People may not like you on social media or like your post or follow you, whatever, but trust me, people are watching. People are in rooms having conversations about you. So the best you can do for yourself, or if you're a serious minded entrepreneur, is to keep showing up. Because the day the door is going to open wide for you, it's going to be because you're consistent. And consistency, preparation. When that opportunity comes, you've got to be prepared. That's why you've got to wake up every day, back to the grind, keep showing up better, keep improving against all odds. Entrepreneurship is not easy. Even whilst we worked in 9 to 5, the truth was it was never easy at the top. It's never going to be easy. But if you know what you're doing, that's why maybe I'm going to the advice point now. Anyone who says I have a venture, I want to start a venture, I want to go into entrepreneurship, I would always say you got to sleep and ask yourself, what is your why? If your why is money, you're very quick to fail. It's going to be so easy to fail because by the time the challenges look you in the face, if you're not grounded in your why, like why am I doing full circle? I'm doing it for impact. Is because I see a white space and I see a future cash opportunity. Because for those of us building now, when many people now wake up, maybe in another 5, 10 years, then it might already have become a cash cow. Like everybody now, let's milk. But some of us are going to lay the foundation, and I'm happy to be one of those that are going to be laying the foundation now. But what is my motivation? Money is not. If money were my motivation, I would not be here. I'll probably be in 9 to 5 where it's convenient. Your salary gets paid at the end of the month, and everybody smiles home. But for me, life has become more than just salary. Life is for me now impact. So my life is really impact driven now. I want to go to places and I want to be offered a seat, not because I'm gorgeously dressed. I want to be offered a seat because somebody identifies what I do, the value I bring. Somebody sees me and says, "You're Bini full circle. I love what you do." As a matter of fact, that's always the high point of my meeting with anyone. So if I meet anyone and either they know about full circle or someone is talking about full circle, like, oh, you're the Bini of full circle. Oh my God. And the hug becomes bigger. Or, or I'm just sitting down talking to someone about full circle, like, oh my God, I love what you do. For me, that is more than money. And that is enough for me to wake up tomorrow and get back on the grind that we're making impact. When I hear things from families like, thank you so much for all you do. We're so grateful. We're so grateful that our mom is a part of Full Circle, or we're so grateful that our dad is a part of Full Circle. His quality of life has improved. His life is better. For me, that trumps every financial benefit. That I can make one life better. That one person, maybe who had a diagnosis and the doctors had said, okay, 6 more months to live, just because they found Full Circle. That person has lived 2 years. That's 18 months more than the doctors thought he would live. For me, that is everything. And that keeps me motivated. I want to replicate that in many families. I want more elderly people to cross over to 90, to cross over to 100, because they have a full circle, because they have that community that is encouraging them to live another day, live another month, as opposed to just staying indoors, lonely and waiting for death. Do you know there are people who are waiting to die? Because there's nothingness. Nothingness is worse than any disease. Like being in that position of nothingness, like nothing works, nothing matters. You, you just can't
let me
find
just
it.
go.
Yes. But the ability to make
Mm,
a difference
mm,
in people's lives, for me, it trumps everything else.
interesting.
So for me, I would say to any aspiring entrepreneur, whatever it is you want to do, be it selling water or selling
Mm,
sand, over and above the financial benefit, there's got to be a
understand
very
the
big
why.
why
Mm,
that would keep you going even when the money is not coming.
it's not flowing. Mm,
And it has to be tied somehow to impact.
mm,
Because I think that's why God created us,
mm,
to do good. We've got to do good.
mm.
Because doing good makes you happy. It even makes you
Absolutely.
live longer.
Absolutely.
So it has to
Mm,
be impact based. Then I
mm.
think if you do good and you do it so well, people would
You
pay
get,
for the good,
get
and
value
then
out
the
of
money
the
would come.
exchange.
So please, young entrepreneurs, don't put money before impact. Put
Wow.
impact ahead of money and do it so well. Show up. Then please also bottoms up. I like to preach bottoms up because some people like to do top down,
Mm,
and it's expensive. It's
mm,
costly.
mm,
Bottoms up is slower, but however, you learn because life, every curve has
mm.
its. There's a lesson in every
Of course.
stage that you
Absolutely.
that you. If
Mm,
you miss the lesson in stage one, it's going to
mm,
impact stage four. So
mm,
you got to go stage by stage, learn the ropes.
mm,
So that's what I'll just leave with young people. Entrepreneurship is great,
mm,
and please don't be discouraged. Don't let anybody discourage you,
mm,
because at the end of life, I think if we look at the founding fathers of the multinationals today, they dared to dream and they
mm,
were young.
mm,
You got to dare to dream, and that's what will make your story
mm,
interesting, even long
mm,
after we're gone. You know, they
mm,
say that the one who has understood life is the one who's planting a tree, or who's planted a
mm.
tree that he would never sit under. Because
Mm,
the tree might take
mm,
10 years to grow. You know,
mm,
you're not going to sit on that tree,
mm,
but you're planting it. Then you understand the meaning of life, and that's
mm.
impact. So I'll
That's a
just leave
fact.
that as my closing word out here.
Woo! Thank you so much, Bimini. It's been a pleasure talking and just having this conversation with you. Your passion as always is contagious. Like you just make me feel like me. Let me just pack my bag and go on. you know. So
Thank
thanks a
you for
lot for
having
sharing.
me.
It's really been a pleasure having you on Adventures and for sharing so passionately, right, from your heart, right. It's so clear, it's so obvious. This for you is a labor of love. It's not. I mean, that's a summary. It's a labor of love, right? You're passionate about it. You live it. You talk it. You know it's a critical part of who you are, right? And the changes and the differences you've made in the life of people is even enough, and it continues to fuel that passion. So, thanks sharing so freely. I'm sure a lot of people
Thank you
listening to
too.
this conversation will withdraw. Just listening, will pull things here and there, and then they'll be able to do something so differently in their own journey. Thanks for everything that you've shared, and
Thank you too. It's my
yeah,
pleasure. I'm really
really
happy to
nice
be
to
here.
have you. Yeah, really nice to have you. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.